The dust hadn't settled from the last brawl when Caleb Kane pushed through the saloon doors. His spurs clinked against the warped floorboards, each step measured and deliberate. The Silver Dollar Saloon reeked of sweat, tobacco, and cheap whiskey, scents that clung to every surface like the sins of the men who frequented it. Mari Harlow watched him from behind the bar, her practiced hands wiping down glasses that would never truly be clean. She'd seen plenty of dangerous men walk through those doors, but something about this one made her fingers pause mid-swipe. Maybe it was the way he moved, like a wolf among sheep, or how his weathered duster coat hung heavy with road dust and darker stains she didn't want to identify. He chose the corner table, back to the wall, eyes on both exits. Smart man, the kind who'd lived long enough to know that death often came from behind in places like this. "Whiskey," he said when she approached, his voice rough as gravel. The single word carried weight, like everything else about him. Mari poured without comment, noting the scars on his knuckles as he wrapped his fingers around the glass. He downed it in one swallow, then pushed it back toward her. She refilled it. This dance continued 3 more times before either spoke again. "You planning to drink yourself under my table, mister?" Mari kept her tone light, professional. She'd learned long ago that neutrality was armor in a place where men's moods shifted faster than desert winds. His eyes lifted to hers for the first time, gray as gunmetal, cold as January rain. But there was something else there, buried deep, a hunger that had nothing to do with alcohol. "Another whiskey?" she asked, already reaching for the bottle. "I want more than whiskey." The words came out like a growl, raw and primal. "For a heartbeat." Mari's hand hovered over the bottle, uncertain. Then she saw it, not the leer she'd grown accustomed to from drunk cowboys, but something far more dangerous. Recognition, like he saw past the faded dress and tired smile to the woman beneath who'd forgotten what it felt like to be truly seen. "Kitchen's closed," she said carefully, "but I might rustle up some bread and beans if... Not hungry for food either." The saloon's noise seemed to fade around them. At the poker table, Big Jim Crenshaw was cheating again, sliding cards from his sleeve while the others pretended not to notice. Near the piano, 2 ranch hands argued over a painted lady's attention, but in their corner, the air grew thick with unspoken tension. Mari straightened her spine. "Then perhaps you should tell me what you're after, Mr. Kane. Caleb Kane." He leaned back, studying her with those storm cloud eyes. "And I'm after nothing you're selling. Miss just tired of the taste of gunpowder and blood. Thought whiskey might wash it away." "Does it?" "Never has. Doubt it ever will." She should have walked away then, should have refilled his glass and moved on to other customers. But something in his honesty, brutal as it was, held her there. When was the last time someone had spoken truth in this place of lies and loaded dice? "You running from something, Mr. Kane?" A bitter smile tugged at his lips. "Can't run from what's inside you." Mari understood that. Lord, how she understood. Every night she served drinks to men who saw her as furniture with convenient curves. Every morning she woke to the same dingy room above the saloon, counting the days like a prisoner marking time. She was running too. Only her prison moved with her. "Hey, sugar!" Tom Baskin's slurred voice cut through the moment. The railroad worker swayed on his feet, leering at Mari with bloodshot eyes. "How about you forget the gravedigger there and come warm my lap?" Mari's jaw tightened, but her smile remained fixed. "I'll be right with you, Tom. Now!" Baskin grabbed her wrist, yanking hard enough to bruise. "Been waiting all night for..." The click of a hammer being cocked froze everyone in place. Caleb hadn't seemed to move, but his Colt .45 was out, aimed steady at Baskin's head. "The lady said she'd be with you when she's ready." His voice carried no heat, no emotion, just fact. "Let go." Baskin's face flushed red. "You don't know who you're messing with. Stranger, I got friends. Got a hole in your head too. You don't release her in the next 3 seconds. The saloon held its breath, even the piano player's hands stilled on the keys. Maury felt Baskin's grip loosen, then disappear entirely. He stumbled backward, mumbling curses but not brave enough to test the cold certainty in Caleb's eyes. No need for gunplay. Sheriff Cray's voice boomed from the doorway. The lawman strutted in, badge gleaming, hand resting on his own pistol. We run a peaceful establishment here. Caleb holstered his weapon smoothly. Just encouraging good manners. Sheriff. Cray's eyes narrowed. He was a small man who wore his authority like an ill-fitting coat, always pulling at it to make sure others noticed. Don't believe I know you, friend. Just passing through. See that you keep passing. Cray's gaze shifted to Maury, and something ugly flickered there. And you, girl, try not to cause trouble for paying customers. Maury bit her tongue, tasting copper. After Cray wandered off to glad hand the poker players, she turned back to Caleb. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me. Made things worse for you. Likely. He was right. Cray would remember this. And Baskin would be back with his railroad buddies. But for one moment, someone had stood up for her. Someone had seen her as worth defending. Why did you? She asked. Caleb was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, maybe I'm tired of watching the strong prey on the weak. Maybe I've done enough of that myself. The confession hung between them like smoke from a fired gun. Maury refilled his glass without being asked, then surprised herself by pouring one of her own. Boss Henderson would dock her pay if he saw, but she didn't care. To the damned, she said, raising her glass. To the damned, he echoed. They drank, and in that moment, two lost souls recognized each other across the wasteland of their lives. Neither knew that this chance meeting would soon explode into violence and passion that would either save or destroy them both. For now, there was just the burn of whiskey and the weight of understanding between two people who'd forgotten what it meant to hope. Outside, thunder rumbled across the desert sky. A storm was coming to perdition, and its name was change. The whiskey burned less with each swallow, but the memories remained sharp as broken glass. Caleb stared into the amber liquid, seeing faces of men he'd killed reflected in its depths. Some deserved it. Others were just boys wearing uniforms on the wrong side of someone else's war. You were a soldier, Maury said. It wasn't a question. She'd learned to read men like trail signs. This one bore the mark of someone who'd followed orders until his soul went numb. He rolled the glass between scarred palms. Now I'm just another gun for hire. Least that's honest work. Man knows what he's paying for. Maury understood honesty. It was a luxury she couldn't afford. Every smile, every laugh, every gentle deflection of wandering hands. All lies to survive another day. She glanced around the saloon, ensuring Boss Henderson wasn't watching before settling into the chair across from Caleb. How long since you stopped believing in causes? She asked. Antietam. Watched 5,000 men die in a cornfield. Boys calling for their mothers while their guts spilled into the dirt. His jaw tightened. After that, figured the only cause worth fighting for was the next meal and a place to sleep without dreams. Do you? Sleep without dreams? No. The simple admission hung between them. Maury traced a water ring on the scarred table, remembering her own ghosts. My father swung from a cottonwood tree when I was 15. Said he stole horses, but he was just trying to feed us after the drought killed our crops. The man who accused him wanted our land. He get it? Every acre. Mama fought them in court until the fever took her. Lawyer fees ate what little we had left. She laughed, bitter as alkali water. Honorable Judge Cray oversaw the whole thing. Same man who now owns part of this saloon. Caleb's eyes sharpened. The sheriff? His brother. Family business. You might say. They own most of Perdition. The law, the saloon, even the working girls upstairs. Maury's fingers unconsciously rubbed her wrist where Baskin had grabbed her. I'm lucky. Henderson keeps me serving drinks instead of other services. Long as I make the customers happy and don't cause trouble. That what you call lucky? It's better than the alternatives I've seen. The saloon door banged open. bringing a gust of desert wind and 3 men whose presence changed the atmosphere like a drop in barometric pressure. Railroad workers, faces flushed with drink and righteousness. Baskin led them, pointing at Caleb with vindictive triumph. "That's him, boys, the one who pulled iron on me." Mari started to rise, but Caleb's hand covered hers, gentle but firm. "Stay seated. They'll hurt you. Been hurt before." He stood slowly, adjusting his gun belt with practiced ease. "Evening, gentlemen. Something I can help you with?" The biggest of the 3, a mountain of muscle named Dutch Garrett, cracked his knuckles. "Yeah, you can apologize to our friend here, then crawl out of town on your belly. Afraid I'm fresh out of apologies. Used my last one on a widow in Tucson." Dutch's face reddened. "You think you're funny?" "No, I think I'm tired." Caleb's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried throughout the room. "I think I've ridden 300 miles through hell's own country. I think I want to finish my drink in peace. And I think you boys should walk away before someone gets hurt." 4 against 1. Baskin sneered. "I like those odds. Can't count, can you? I see 3 of you and 1 of me." "The sheriff makes 4, Cray said, entering with theatrical timing. His hand rested on his pistol. "And I don't take kindly to drifters threatening tax-paying citizens." Mari's heart sank. She'd seen this play before. Cray would let his brother's friends rough up the stranger, maybe kill him, then write it up as self-defense. Another nameless grave in Boot Hill, another reminder that justice in perdition wore whatever face the Cray brothers painted on it. "Please," she heard herself say. "He was just defending me. Tom was getting rough." "Shut your mouth, girl," Cray snapped. "Unless you want to explain to Henderson why you're stirring up trouble instead of serving drinks." Caleb remained motionless, reading the room like a map of ambush points. His eyes found hers, and she saw something unexpected there, not fear, but regret, like he was sorry for what was about to happen. "Tell you what," he said conversationally. "I'll make this easy. First man who moves gets shot. Second man gets to watch his friend die. Third man might make it to the door. Sheriff," he smiled coldly. "Well, lawmen die just like everyone else. You're threatening an officer of the law. I'm stating facts. You want to dance? We'll dance. But this isn't my first barn raising. And you boys look soft. Railroad work makes you strong, but it doesn't make you fast." His hand hovered near his gun, relaxed but ready. "So what's it going to be?" The tension stretched like piano wire. Mari held her breath, watching Dutch's eyes dart between Caleb and the door. Baskin's bravado wilted under that gray stare. Even Cray seemed to reconsider, calculating odds like a banker. It was the 4th man who broke the standoff, Henderson, emerging from his office with a scattergun. "That's enough. I run a respectable establishment. You want to kill each other? Do it in the street. Tom, Dutch, get out. You're banned for a week." "But he—" Baskin started. "Out." Henderson's finger found the trigger. "Sheriff, I believe these men were disturbing the peace. Perhaps you should escort them home." Cray's face twisted with rage, but even he wouldn't challenge a shotgun at close range. "This isn't over," he told Caleb. "Strangers who cause trouble in my town have a way of disappearing. I'll keep that in mind." After they left, Henderson turned his piggy eyes on Mari. "You, upstairs, now." Mari's stomach dropped. She knew that tone, knew what usually followed. But before she could move, Caleb spoke up. "The lady was just serving drinks. Any trouble was mine." "The lady works for me," Henderson said, "and she knows better than to get familiar with the customers. Upstairs, girl. We need to discuss your future here." Mari stood on trembling legs. She'd pushed too far, shown too much humanity. Now came the price. Henderson might just fire her, or he might decide she'd be more profitable in the rooms upstairs. Either way, her fragile stability was crumbling. "I'll go with her," Caleb said. Henderson laughed, an ugly sound. "You got money for that? She ain't one of the working girls. Not yet, anyway. I've got money for information. Heard you know everything that happens in perdition. Man in my line of work needs that kind of knowledge." Caleb pulled out a leather pouch. letting gold coins catch the lamplight. Private conversation, the three of us. Greed flickered across Henderson's features. Information, huh? Well, now that's different. Mari, show the gentleman to my office. And brew some coffee. This might be a long conversation. As they climbed the stairs, Mari whispered, "Why are you helping me?" "Maybe I'm not." Caleb replied, "Maybe I'm just postponing the inevitable." But his hand brushed hers in the darkness, a touch so brief she might have imagined it. For the first time in years, Mari felt something besides resignation. It might have been hope, or it might have been fear. In Perdition, they often wore the same face. Henderson's office reeked of cigar smoke and corruption. The man settled behind his desk like a toad on a lily pad, eyes gleaming with avarice as he counted Caleb's gold coins. "The information's expensive in Perdition," he said, making the coins dance between his fingers. "What exactly are you looking to know?" Caleb leaned back in the cracked leather chair, keeping Mari in his peripheral vision. She stood by the window, brewing coffee with hands that barely trembled. Strong woman, stronger than she knew. Railroads pushing through soon. Caleb said, "Man in my profession likes to know where the money flows. Security contracts, maybe protection work." Henderson's laugh was oily. "Protection, that's rich. The Cray brothers got that market cornered. Less you're planning to protect folks from them. Just looking for honest work. Then you're in the wrong town. Friend." Henderson pocketed the coins. "But since you paid, railroad's coming through all right. 6 months, maybe less, town's gonna boom. Land prices already climbing. The Cray's been buying up everything they can, especially water rights. Smart men. Cruel men. But smart and cruel go together like whiskey and regret." Henderson's eyes slid to Mari. "Speaking of which, girl, you're costing me money. Customers don't like uppity serving women." She was doing her job. Caleb interjected, "I'll decide what her job is." Henderson stood, moving around the desk with predatory slowness. "Been thinking maybe it's time Mari expanded her duties. Pretty thing like her could earn triple what she makes serving drinks." Mari's knuckles went white around the coffee pot handle. "Mr. Henderson, please, you promised when I started—" "Promises are for people who pay their debts. You still owe me for your mother's medicine, remember? Interest adds up." Caleb recognized the trap. Keep them in debt, keep them desperate, keep them compliant. He'd seen it on plantations, in mining camps, anywhere powerful men fed on the powerless. "How much?" he asked. Henderson's smile widened. "More than you got. Gunslinger. Less you're planning to rob a bank. Name the figure. $200, plus this month's interest." It was theft, plain and simple. Medicine that probably cost $5 inflated to chains of gold. Caleb had maybe $60 left after paying for information. But he saw Mari's shoulders slump, saw hope die in her posture, and made a decision that surprised him. "I'll work it off. Security for your establishment. 2 months. Henderson laughed. "You? Working as a bouncer? The Crays would run you out in a week. Then you get a week's free labor. Bad bargain for me. Good one for you." The saloon owner considered this. Greed warring with caution. "And if you die, who pays the debt then? Then you're no worse off than now." "Mr. Kane, you don't have to—" Mari started. "Coffee's ready." Caleb interrupted. "Pour 3 cups. We're negotiating." What followed was the kind of devil's bargain that built towns like Perdition. Caleb would provide security, handle problems, keep the peace Henderson's way. In exchange, Mari's debt would decrease by $5 a day, a rate that meant he'd need to survive at least 40 days to free her. "One condition," Caleb added. "The lady serves drinks, nothing else. Anyone suggests otherwise, they deal with me." "You planning to fight the whole town?" "If necessary." Henderson extended his hand. "Deal. You start tonight. Mari, show him the room above the storeroom. Can't have my security sleeping at the boarding house." Outside the office, Mari grabbed Caleb's arm. "Why? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Maybe I owe myself something." He looked down at her hand on his sleeve. surprised by how right it felt there. Maybe I'm tired of walking past people in trouble. This isn't your fight. It is now. They descended to the storeroom, Mari leading him through boxes of whiskey and dried goods to a narrow staircase. The room above was barely more than a closet. A cot, a washstand, a single window overlooking the alley. It's not much, she apologized. I've slept in worse. He tested the cot, which groaned but held. That debt real? Mari sank onto a crate, suddenly exhausted. Real enough. Mama lingered for 3 months. Doc Paulson did what he could, but medicine's expensive. Henderson offered to help. Seemed kind about it. I was grateful then. Stupid. Not stupid. Desperate. There's a difference. Is there? She laughed bitterly. I've been here 2 years. 2 years of drunken hands and leering faces and counting every penny. Some nights I think about just giving in would be easier. Would it? She met his eyes. No, it would kill something in me. Whatever's left that remembers who I was before this place. Caleb understood. He'd felt pieces of himself die with every trigger pulled, every life taken. You could survive without those pieces, but were you still human? Or just a ghost going through the motions? Tell me about before. He said, so she did. Talked about the ranch, small but theirs. About her father teaching her to ride. Her mother's cornbread. Summer evenings when the world seemed full of promise, before drought and debt and powerful men who took what they wanted. Your turn, she said eventually. Who were you before the war? Teacher. The word felt foreign on his tongue. Little schoolhouse in Missouri. Taught kids their letters and numbers. Thought I was building something. What happened? War happened. Both sides came through, burning what the other built. School got torched with my books inside. Students scattered or died. Seemed pointless to teach civilization when men were so eager to destroy it. He shrugged. So I learned a different trade, one that made sense in senseless times. Do you miss it? Teaching? Sometimes, when I'm not too drunk to remember. He stood, checking the window's sightlines out of habit. You should go. People will talk if you stay up here. People talk anyway. But she rose, pausing at the door. Mr. Kane. Caleb. Caleb. She tested the name. What you're doing. It's dangerous. The Krays don't forgive, and Henderson will use you up. Probably. Then why? He was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, man I knew in the war, chaplain, used to say every soul gets moments of choosing, turn toward the light or away from it. Maybe I've been turning away so long I forgot what the light looks like. He met her eyes. Maybe you reminded me. Mari felt tears threaten, unwelcome and unexpected. When did she last cry for anything but her own sorrows? I'm nobody's light. Caleb, I'm just trying not to drown. Then we'll try not to drown together. She left then, but her presence lingered like perfume in the dusty air. Caleb sat on the cot, checking his weapons by lamplight. 40 days. He'd survived longer odds, but never with someone else's freedom hanging in the balance. Below, the saloon roared with life. In a few hours, he'd wade into that chaos as Henderson's man, enforcing order he didn't believe in for people he didn't respect. But somewhere in that noise was a woman who'd lost everything except the strength to say no. And that was worth fighting for. He thought about the teacher he'd been, the gunman he'd become, and wondered if a man could find his way back from darkness. Probably not. But maybe, just maybe, he could help someone else find their way out. The storm that had threatened earlier finally broke, rain hammering the roof like bullets. Caleb listened to its violence and made his peace with what was coming. Every soul gets moments of choosing. He'd made his choice. The week's first test came on Caleb's third night. Dutch Garrett returned with liquid courage and reinforcements, 5 railroad workers who'd been paid to make trouble. They waited until the saloon was packed, timing their entrance for maximum witnesses. Where's your guard dog? Henderson, Dutch shouted over the crowd. Heard you hired the drifter who pulled iron on honest working men. Caleb stepped from the shadows near the bar, hand resting casual on his gun. Evening, Dutch. Come to try your luck again? 6 against 1. Better odds than before. Can't count, can you? I see 6 dead men walking. The saloon went quiet. Marie froze behind the bar, bottles suspended mid-pour. She'd watched Caleb these past days, breaking up fights with words when possible. Fists when necessary. But this was different. This was choreographed violence. A show meant to end in blood. Big talk, Dutch sneered. Let's see you back it up without hiding behind that iron. Caleb unbuckled his gun belt, letting it drop. Your play. What followed was brutal. Dutch had reach and weight. His friends had numbers, but Caleb fought like a man who'd learned violence in places where losing meant dying. He took Dutch apart methodically. Knee to the groin, elbow to the throat, boot heel to the knee. When 2 others rushed him, he grabbed a chair, splinted it across one's head, and drove the broken leg into the other's belly. But numbers tell. A bottle caught him above the ear, sending him stumbling. Boots found his ribs while he was down. Mari watched Dutch pull a knife, saw murder in his eyes, and acted without thinking. The shotgun blast shattered bottles and silenced the room. Mari stood on the bar, Henderson's scattergun smoking in her hands. Next one takes Dutch's head off. Girl, you don't want to... Dutch started. Try me. Her voice was steady as her hands. I've got nothing left to lose but chains. Caleb used the distraction to rise, blood streaming from his scalp. His fist found Dutch's jaw with a crack like breaking timber. The big man dropped, knife clattering across the floor. Anyone else? Caleb asked the room. No one moved. Then drag him out. Show's over. Later, in the storeroom, Mari cleaned his wounds with whiskey and gentle hands. You're lucky that bottle didn't crack your skull. Had worse. He winced as she probed a particularly deep cut. You handle that shotgun like you were born to it. Papa taught me, said a woman alone needs to speak all languages, including scattergun. Her fingers lingered on his face, tracing a scar older than tonight's damage. You've been hurt so many times. Body mends. What about the rest? He caught her hand, holding it against his cheek. Jury's still out on that. They were close enough to share breath, to see their reflections in each other's eyes. The air between them crackled with possibility and danger. Mari knew she should pull away, knew this was a complication neither could afford, but his skin was warm under her palm, and she'd been cold so long. This is foolish, she whispered. Most good things are. He kissed her then, soft at first, like he was afraid she'd shatter. She did shatter, but into something new, something that had been dormant since grief and hardship froze her heart. Her hands found his hair, pulled him closer, and gentle became desperate. They broke apart when footsteps creaked overhead. Henderson checking his domain. Mari's cheeks flushed, lips swollen, looking more alive than Caleb had yet seen her. I should go, she said. Stay. People will talk. Let them. He touched her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. When's the last time you did something just because you wanted to? She laughed, breathless. I can't remember. Then remember this. They came together again. 2 people who'd forgotten softness finding it in each other. Caleb's hands were gentle despite their violent work, mapping her curves like she was territory worth claiming careful. Mari responded with her own hunger, years of denial breaking like a dam. When she finally left near dawn, Caleb lay staring at the ceiling, body aching from the fight but mind clear for the first time in years. He'd forgotten this too, how desire could burn away the shadows. How touching someone with tenderness instead of violence could make you feel human again. But morning brought complications. Henderson was waiting when Caleb came down, face grim. Sheriff wants to see you. The jail was everything Caleb expected. Brick and iron and the smell of hopelessness. Cray sat behind his desk like a spider in its web. Deputy Williams lurking in the corner. Heard there was trouble at the Silver Dollar, Cray said conversationally. I handled it. By assaulting tax-paying citizens, by defending myself and the establishment. Ask Henderson. Cray leaned forward. I'm asking you. See, Dutch Garrett's laid up with a broken jaw. Can't work. Railroad's asking questions. They're thinking maybe we got a dangerous element in town needs removing. I'm employed by Henderson. Take it up with him. I'm taking it up with you. Cray's mask of civility slipped, showing the cruel man beneath. You got two choices. Drifter, leave town today, or things get unpleasant. Define unpleasant. Deputy Williams spoke for the first time. Found a body in the desert last month. Drifter who didn't take good advice. Coyotes hadn't left much, but what they did, he smiled. Unpleasant covers it. Caleb met their eyes steady. I've got a contract. Man's only as good as his word. Noble, stupid, but noble. Cray stood. Here's some free advice. That girl you're sweet on? She's debt property. Henderson owns her legal and proper. You can't save her. And trying will just get you both hurt. Appreciate the concern. Sheriff, it ain't concern. It's a warning. Next time my boys come calling, I won't hold them back. And if something happens to you, well, Cray's smile was cold as a shallow grave. Who'll protect her then? Walking back to the saloon, Caleb felt the weight of the trap closing. They were right. He couldn't fight the whole town. But running meant abandoning Mari to whatever fate Henderson and the Crays designed. The teacher in him, long buried, whispered about honor and standing ground. The gunman knew honor got people killed. He found Mari in the storeroom, taking inventory with focused determination. When she saw him, her professional mask slipped, revealing the woman who'd kissed him like drowning people grab for air. You're all right. Henderson said the sheriff. I'm fine. He caught her hands. But we need to talk. This thing between us, it's painting a target on your back. There's always been a target there. Not like this. The Crays want me gone. They'll use you to make it happen. Mari pulled free, anger flashing in her eyes. So leave. Run. It's what men do. That what you want? What I want? She laughed bitter. I want my parents alive. I want my home back. I want to wake up somewhere that doesn't smell like whiskey and broken dreams. But wanting doesn't change anything. It could. How? You going to gun down every Cray brother? Every corrupt lawman? Every man who sees me as property? She shook her head. This isn't a dime novel. Caleb, heroes don't win. They just die messier than most. He stepped close, backing her against the shelves. I'm no hero, but I'm not leaving you here. You don't get to decide. He kissed her quiet, pouring promise into the contact. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. 37 more days, he said. Then your debt's paid and we leave together. We? Unless you got somewhere better to be. Hope flickered in her eyes, fragile as candle flame. You know they won't let us just walk away. Then we'll run. California, Oregon, somewhere the Crays are just a bad memory. Together. Together. She kissed him then, sealing a pact that both knew might be written in blood. But in that moment, in that dusty storeroom with danger circling like buzzards, they chose each other over fear. The storm that brought them together had passed, but another was building. They could feel it in the air, in the looks that followed them, in the whispers that stopped when they appeared. The news arrived with the morning stage. Judge Theodore Cray was coming to perdition, the sheriff's older brother. The man who'd overseen the legal theft of Murray's family land would arrive within the week to review territorial matters before the railroad expansion. He's coming for you, Henderson told Caleb over breakfast. Judge don't travel unless there's serious business. Caleb sipped his coffee, mind calculating. Thought you owned part of this place. Why let the Crays push you around? I own 20%. They own the other 80, plus the law, plus most of the guns. Henderson's laugh was bitter. I'm a tick on their dog, tolerated long as I'm useful. And when you're not, then I'll be another shallow grave in the desert. The saloon owner studied Caleb with something like regret. You're good for business. Keep the peace better than most. But when the judge gets here, you'll throw me to the wolves. Nothing personal. Man's gotta survive. Caleb understood survival. He also understood that time was running out faster than anticipated. 28 days left on Mari's debt, but they might not have 28 hours once the judge arrived. That night, the saloon was quieter than usual. Word had spread about the judge's impending visit, and even the regular drunks seemed subdued. Mari moved through the tables like a ghost, smile fixed, but eyes distant. "You heard?" she asked when she reached his corner. "I heard. He's the one who—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "After Papa died, he came to the house. Said he could make things easier for Mama and me if I was accommodating. I was 15. Rage, cold and pure, filled Caleb's chest. What happened? Mama chased him off with Papa's rifle. That's when our legal troubles really started." Her hands trembled as she set down his whiskey. "If he sees me here, recognizes me, he won't touch you. You can't promise that." She was right. One man, even a dangerous one, couldn't stand against the machinery of corruption that ran perdition. But he could try to throw sand in the gears. "Meet me tonight," he said quietly. "After closing. We need to prepare." The knock came at midnight. Mari slipped into his room wearing a traveling cloak, carrying a small bundle. "I can't do this anymore," she said without preamble. "Can't pretend everything's fine while waiting for the axe to fall. Then we leave. Tonight. My debt. Forget the debt. We'll head south, cross into Mexico, start fresh where the Cray name means nothing." Hope and fear warred on her face. "I have $12 saved. You?" "40, plus the horses I spotted at Murphy's livery. Man owes me for keeping his drunk son from getting killed last week. That's not enough. Supplies, travel. We'd need 3 times that to have a chance." Caleb pulled her close, feeling her heart race against his chest. "Then we get it." "How? Rob Henderson's safe." She laughed bitter. "He'd love that excuse to—" Understanding dawned. "No, Caleb, no. The poker game in the back room. High stakes every Saturday. Judge will probably sit in when he arrives. A lot of money on that table. It's suicide. They'll have guards. They'll have Deputy Williams and maybe one other. I've handled worse odds." Mari pulled back, searching his face. "This isn't your fight. You could leave alone, disappear. Why risk it for me?" The question hung between them. Caleb thought of all the things he couldn't say. How she'd reminded him that feeling was still possible. How her strength in the face of hopelessness made his own survival seem shallow. How the thought of leaving her to the Cray's mercy was worse than any bullet. "Because I'm tired of leaving people behind," he said finally. She kissed him then, desperate and deep, like she was trying to memorize the taste. When they broke apart, her eyes were wet but determined. "If we're doing this, we do it smart. I know things, routines, weaknesses. Henderson talks when he drinks, and he drinks plenty." They spent the next hours planning. 2 people preparing to bet their lives on cards and bullets. Mari sketched the saloon's layout, marking guard positions and exit routes. Caleb cleaned his weapons, checking each chamber twice. "The judge always carries cash," Mari said. "Doesn't trust banks. Henderson mentioned once he travels with enough to buy whatever he wants, or whoever." Dawn was breaking when exhaustion finally claimed them. They lay together on the narrow cot, fully clothed but clinging like children afraid of the dark. Caleb stroked her hair, feeling her breath against his neck. "Scared?" he asked. "Terrified? You? Only of failing you." She rose on one elbow, tracing his jaw with gentle fingers. "You've already done more than anyone else ever tried. Whatever happens, nothing's happening except us riding out of here together. Promise?" He caught her hand, pressing it to his lips. Promise. But they both knew promises were fragile things in a place like perdition, easily shattered by bullets or betrayal. Still, they held each other as morning light crept across the floor, pretending for a few precious hours that love might be stronger than law. The next evening, news came that made their planning urgent. Judge Cray would arrive tomorrow, 2 days early. The town buzzed with nervous energy. Sheriff Cray strutted like a peacock, making sure everything was ready for his brother's approval. "He's moving up the timeline," Henderson muttered, watching the sheriff direct preparations. "Wants you dealt with quick." Caleb nodded, mind already shifting plans. Tomorrow night, then. The judge would want to assert dominance, would sit in on the big game to show he still owned the town. It would be their only chance. That night, he found Mari crying in the storeroom. First time he'd seen her tears fall free. "What if we just ran now?" she asked. "Right now, before he gets here." "With what? $50 won't get us far enough. They'd catch us before we reach the border." "At least we'd have tried." He held her while she shook, tasting salt on her lips when he kissed her. "One more day, then we're free. Or dead. Either way, we'll be together." She laughed through tears, a broken sound. "That's supposed to comfort me. It comforts me." They made love that night like condemned prisoners, desperate and tender by turns. Every touch was memorized, every whispered word a promise against the dark. When Mari finally slept, Caleb lay awake planning every detail of tomorrow's madness. The judge would arrive at noon. The game would start at 8. By midnight, they'd be rich or dead or somewhere in between. He looked at Mari's face, peaceful in sleep, and made his own promise to whatever God might be listening. Let her live. Whatever happens to me, let her get out of this place. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Another storm coming, right on schedule. Caleb smiled grimly. Good. Rain would cover tracks, muffle gunshots. Nature itself seemed to be choosing sides. 24 hours until the play began. He pulled Mari closer and waited for the dawn. Judge Theodore Cray arrived like a plague wind at noon, his black carriage raising dust devils down Main Street. Caleb watched from the saloon's upper window as the town's powerful lined up to pay respects. The judge was everything his brother wasn't. Tall where the sheriff was short. Elegant where his sibling was crude. But the same cruelty lived in both their eyes. "That's him," Mari whispered beside Caleb. She'd gone pale at first sight of the man who'd destroyed her family. "He hasn't aged a day. Evil preserves some men like salt preserves meat." The judge's eyes swept the buildings like he was cataloging property, and his gaze lingered on the silver dollar. A smile played at his lips before he turned to greet Henderson, who'd rushed out, hat in hand. "He knows," Mari said. "He knows I'm here. Let him know. After tonight. It won't matter." The afternoon dragged like molasses. Caleb made his rounds, keeping order while memorizing every detail for tonight. Deputy Williams had taken position at the rear entrance, the sheriff's insurance policy. 2 more hired guns lounged near the poker room, trying to look casual. Mari served drinks with mechanical precision, avoiding the main floor where the judge held court. But at 6 o'clock, Henderson found her. "Judge wants to see you, private-like." "I'm working. Not a request, girl." Henderson's face was flushed, fearful. "He asked for you specific, know your name and everything." Caleb stepped between them. "She's busy. Not your call. Kane." Henderson's hand moved toward the pistol at his belt. "Judge Cray wants something. He gets it. That's how we all keep breathing. Then maybe it's time some of us stopped." The tension crackled until Mari touched Caleb's arm. "It's all right. I'll go. Mari, 10 minutes. If I'm not back, you'll know what to do." She walked toward the judge's commandeered office like a woman approaching the gallows. Caleb counted heartbeats, hand never leaving his gun. At 8 minutes, he started moving. He was halfway up the stairs when Marie emerged, face carved from stone. She passed him without a word, but her hand brushed his, passing a folded paper. He palmed it, waiting until they were alone to read. "He offered to clear my debt. All of it. Just have to spend the night. Said you're dead either way. Might as well save myself." Rage, cold and absolute, filled Caleb's veins. But beneath the anger was something worse, understanding. The judge had given her a way out, a terrible way, but survival nonetheless. He wouldn't blame her for taking it. The poker game started at 8 sharp. Caleb took his position by the door, watching the players arrive. Sheriff Cray, the judge, Henderson, and 3 railroad executives with more money than sense. The pot grew fat quick, gold coins and paper bills piling like autumn leaves. Marie moved through the room serving whiskey, not meeting anyone's eyes. When she passed Caleb, she whispered, "Midnight, back stairway." He didn't nod, didn't acknowledge, just shifted his weight like a man settling in for a long watch. At 11:30, Marie made her move. She'd been pouring drinks heavy all night, and Henderson was deep in his cups. When he called for another bottle, she brought the special one, laced with enough laudanum to drop a horse. 2 profitable partnerships. The judge toasted, raising his glass. They all drank deep except Marie, who'd learned to fake swallowing years ago. Within minutes, Henderson's head was nodding. The railroad men grew sluggish. Even the Cray brothers seemed affected, though they held it better. "Something wrong with this whiskey," Sheriff Cray slurred, reaching for his gun. Caleb moved. His first shot took Deputy Williams in the shoulder, spinning him down. The second went through the poker room window. The signal. Marie dropped behind the bar as chaos erupted. "Nobody move," Caleb commanded. Guns trained on the table, hands where I can see them. The judge laughed, seemingly unaffected by the drugged whiskey. "You think you can rob me, drifter? In my own town? Your town's about to get a new owner." Marie emerged with a cloth sack, sweeping money from the table while the players sat frozen. Thousands in bills and gold vanished into the bag. "Enough for a new life, enough for freedom. You're both dead," Sheriff Cray snarled, fighting the laudanum's pull. "No rock big enough to hide under. We'll see." Caleb backed toward the door, Marie beside him. They'd made it 3 steps when everything went wrong. Williams, bleeding but not dead, fired from the floor. The bullet caught Caleb's left shoulder, spinning him into the wall. His gun dropped, clattering across the boards. "Got you now." The sheriff grinned, drawing his own weapon with shaking hands. The shotgun blast was deafening in the enclosed space. Sheriff Cray looked down at the spreading red across his chest, then at Marie holding Henderson's smoking scattergun. "You," he toppled forward into the poker chips. "Murderous witch!" The judge lunged for her, but Caleb's fist met his jaw first. The older man crashed into the table, scattering cards and coins. "Go!" Caleb shouted, scooping up his gun despite the fire in his shoulder. "Backstairs, now!" They ran through Henderson's office, boots pounding on wooden floors. Behind them, shouts and confusion, but no immediate pursuit. The laudanum had done its work. In the alley, 2 horses waited, already saddled. Caleb's planning, Marie's execution. They mounted fast, the money bag secured to Marie's saddle. "You all right?" she asked, seeing blood seep through his shirt. "I'll live. Ride!" They spurred hard into the storm that had been building all day. Rain lashed down, turning the streets to mud, covering their tracks. Lightning illuminated the desert in stark flashes as they fled toward the Mexican border. Behind them, perdition erupted. Bells rang, torches flared, riders assembled. But the storm was their ally now, hiding them in its fury. 5 miles out, Caleb swayed in his saddle. The shoulder wound was worse than he'd admitted, blood loss making him dizzy. Marie caught his arm, steadying him. "How far to the border?" she shouted over thunder. 40 miles, maybe 50. Too far. He could see it in her eyes, the calculation, the terrible choice. Leave him and live, or stay and die together. "There's a line shack," he said through gritted teeth. "Old mining claim, 10 miles south. We can hold up, wait out the storm. They'll find us. Maybe, but I need to stop this bleeding or I won't make the border anyway." She nodded, taking his reins. "Show me the way." The shack was barely standing, but it had walls and a roof. They stumbled inside, soaking and exhausted. Marie worked by lamplight, cutting away Caleb's shirt to examine the wound. "Bullet's still in there," she said. "Figured as much. I'll have to dig it out. Done it before. On cattle. Never on someone I—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "Someone you what?" Instead of answering, she kissed him hard, tasting of rain and desperation. "Don't you die on me, Caleb Kane. Not after all this." Wouldn't dream of it. The next hour was agony. Mari worked with a knife sterilized in whiskey, digging for lead while Caleb bit down on his belt. When she finally pulled the bullet free, he nearly passed out from relief. "There," she said, bandaging the wound with torn petticoat. "You'll have another scar to add to your collection. Worth it." He caught her bloody hands. "You saved my life back there. With the sheriff. You saved mine first. Seemed only fair to return the favor." They huddled together on the dirt floor, listening to the storm rage outside. The money bags sat between them, their future in canvas and leather. "Think we made it?" Mari asked. "Ask me when we cross the border. And then we disappear, become new people. Maybe I'll teach again. Maybe you'll have that ranch. Together. If you'll have me." She laughed, exhausted but genuine. "I just shot a sheriff for you. I think that's commitment enough." Dawn would bring pursuit, danger, possible death. But for now, they had shelter and each other and hope. In a life built on taking what you could get, it was more than enough. The storm began to ease, thunder moving distant. Soon they'd have to run again, but Caleb pulled Mari close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest, and thought maybe some things were worth the price you paid for them, even if that price was blood. Dawn came pale and unforgiving, revealing their tracks in the rain-softened earth despite the storm's efforts. Caleb woke to Mari's gentle touch on his forehead, checking for fever. "How long?" he asked, voice rough. 2 hours, maybe less before they find us." She'd been watching through cracks in the wall, counting dust clouds on the horizon. 3 groups, spread wide, their sweeping systematic-like. Caleb forced himself upright, testing the shoulder. Pain shot through it, but he could move. Would have to be enough. "Help me up. You're in no shape to ride hard. Rather die in a saddle than on this floor." She didn't argue, just helped him stand and checked his bandages. The bleeding had stopped, but the wound was angry, edges already showing heat. Infection would kill him as sure as bullets if they didn't find help soon. "There's something else," Mari said, not meeting his eyes. "The money. I counted it while you slept. It's more than we thought. Nearly $10,000. Blood money now. Enough to disappear forever. Enough to buy silence and distance and new names." She finally looked at him. "Enough that we could split it and double our chances. Separately." The words hung between them like a challenge. Caleb studied her face, seeing the war between survival and something deeper. "That what you want, to split up?" "What I want doesn't matter if we're dead." But her voice broke on the last word. "I can't watch you die for me." Caleb, already carrying too many ghosts. He caught her hand, pulled her close despite the fire in his shoulder. "Only ghost I'm afraid of is living without you. Romantic fool. Practical woman." He kissed her forehead. "We run together or not at all." "Deal." "Deal." She pressed something into his hand, a small derringer. "Found this in the shack. 2 shots, just in case." Just in case. He knew what she meant. 2 bullets, 2 people. A final escape if capture seemed certain. The thought chilled him more than fever. They saddled up as dust clouds grew closer. Caleb gritted teeth against the pain of mounting, black spots dancing in his vision. Mari tied his reins to her saddle horn without comment. "South?" she asked. "South. Hard as we can push." They rode into rising heat, the desert already shimmering with false promises of water. Behind them, pursuit spread like fingers of a grasping hand. The judge would have hired the best trackers money could buy. Men who could read sign like scripture. 5 miles. 10. Caleb slumped forward, consciousness flickering. Mari pressed water to his lips, voice urgent. "Stay with me. You promised. Remember?" "Trying." The word came out slurred. Infection was winning, burning through him faster than desert sun. "Mari, if I fall, you won't fall. Listen." He grabbed her wrist with his good hand. "If I fall, you run, take the money, get across the border, find that ranch, live free, not without you. Promise me." She was crying now, tears cutting trails through trail dust. "I promise nothing except this. We cross that border together or not at all." A shot cracked across the desert, bullets singing past like an angry wasp. Their pursuers had closed the gap while they argued. 3 riders, coming hard from the northeast. "Ride!" Caleb straightened through sheer will. Spurring his mount, they plunged down a narrow wash, hooves sliding on loose stone. More shots followed, echoing off canyon walls. The wash opened into badlands, twisted rock formations offering cover but slowing progress. They wove between red stone pillars while bullets chipped dust from ancient surfaces. Mari led, picking paths with desperate skill while Caleb clung to consciousness. Then salvation appeared, a box canyon with high walls and only one entrance, defensive position, but also a trap. "In there," Caleb pointed with his gun hand. "They'll bottle us up. Trust me." They thundered into the canyon as their pursuers crested the ridge. At the far end, Caleb saw what he'd hoped, a narrow crack in the rock, barely wide enough for a horse. "Through there! Don't stop!" Mari didn't hesitate, guiding both horses into the gap. Rock scraped their legs, tore at saddlebags. For one terrifying moment, Caleb thought they'd wedged tight. Then they burst through into a hidden valley, green with seep spring water. "How did you—" "Old outlaw told me about it. Last resort for desperate men." He slid from the saddle, legs giving out. "They'll have to come single file. We can hold them." Mari caught him before he hit ground, easing him against a boulder. His shirt was soaked with blood and sweat, fever burning like forge fire. "How many bullets you got?" she asked, checking his guns. 8. You? 6, plus the shotgun. She smiled grim. "And that Derringer? More than enough." They didn't have long to wait. Voices echoed through the gap, arguing. Then a figure appeared, Deputy Williams, arm still wrapped from Caleb's bullet. Mari's shot took him center mass. He toppled backward, blocking the narrow passage. Curses and commotion followed. "Give it up!" Judge Cray's voice boomed through stone. "You're trapped. Surrender now and I might let the woman live." "Like you let my family live," Mari shouted back. "I'll take my chances. Your father was a thief. Your mother a—" Caleb's bullet cut off whatever slander was coming. It ricocheted through the gap, sending men diving for cover. "New deal," Caleb called out, voice stronger than he felt. "You turn around. We all live. Keep coming. We'll stack bodies until the canyon's plugged." Silence stretched. Then came sounds of movement, metal on stone. They were trying to shift Williams's body. "Clear the path." "Together?" Mari asked quietly. Reloading. Together. What followed was the longest hour of their lives. The judge's men tried rushing twice more, losing another gunman each time. The narrow gap worked in the defenders' favor. Numbers meant nothing when only one could attack at a time, but ammunition ran low. Caleb's fever spiked higher. When Mari fired her last rifle shot, he caught her hand. "The Derringer," he said. "Time to choose." She understood. 2 bullets left, death or capture. Which was worse? "Not yet." She kissed him fierce, tasting copper and gunpowder. "Not while there's hope." "Mari." "Listen." At first, he heard only his own labored breathing. Then, hoofbeats, many hoofbeats, approaching fast. The judge's reinforcements. Had to be. They were finished. But the shooting from the gap had stopped. Shouting erupted, confused and angry. Then, impossibly, the sound of horses leaving fast. "What's happening?" Mari peered through the gap, then gasped. "Soldiers! A whole patrol!" Sure enough, blue uniforms filled the canyon mouth. A young lieutenant called through the gap. "Anyone alive in there?" "2 of us," Mari answered. "Wounded." What followed was a blur. The soldiers, on patrol for Apache raiders, had heard the gunfire and investigated. The judge and his remaining men had fled rather than explain the situation to federal authority. The lieutenant, a kind-eyed young man named Garrison, took their story at face value. Newlyweds attacked by bandits, defending themselves desperately. The dead men's lack of badges helped sell the tale. "Border's 20 miles, Garrison said as the medic worked on Caleb's shoulder. "We're headed that way ourselves. You're welcome to ride along." Mari gripped Caleb's hand tight. "We'd be grateful." As they prepared to move out, Caleb pulled Mari close. "We made it," he whispered. "Not yet. 20 miles still." "We made it," he repeated, and she understood. They'd already crossed the real border, from despair to hope, from alone to together. Everything else was just geography. The soldiers formed up, wounded couple in the middle of protective blue. As they rode toward Mexico and freedom, Mari began to believe in futures again. Maybe they'd find that ranch. Maybe Caleb would teach children their letters. Maybe the running could finally stop. "I love you," she said, words carried away by wind, but not before he heard, "And I love you." He replied, "More than whiskey, more than life." She laughed despite everything, and he thought it was the most beautiful sound in the world. They'd paid for this moment in blood and bullets, but somehow, impossibly, they'd won through. 20 miles to freedom, 20 miles to a new life. Together. The Rio Grande appeared like a promise at sunset, its muddy waters catching fire in the dying light. 20 miles had felt like 200, even with the soldiers' protection. Caleb drifted in and out of consciousness, held upright by Mari's steady presence and Lieutenant Garrison's medical supplies. "There it is," Garrison announced, reining in his mount. "Mexico, end of our jurisdiction, beginning of your new life." Mari's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for miles. Freedom had a color, the brown of river water that meant safety. "We can't thank you enough," she told the lieutenant. "No need. We've all seen enough suffering out here." He handed her a letter. "My sister runs a boarding house in El Paso del Norte, just across the river. Respectable place. Tell her I sent you. She'll help you get settled." As the patrol made camp on the American side, Mari and Caleb sat their horses at the river's edge. The water ran shallow here, easily fordable, but crossing it meant leaving everything behind. Their names, their pasts, their ghosts. "Second thoughts?" Caleb asked, reading her stillness. "No, just marking the moment." She looked back toward the darkening desert. "Somewhere out there is my parents' graves. Everything I was, everything you were brought you here, made you strong enough to survive, to save us both." He touched her face with his good hand. "Don't mourn it. Honor it by living free." She nodded, squaring her shoulders. "New names. Thought about that. What do you fancy? Something pretty?" "Catherine," she said without hesitation. "My mother's middle name, Catherine Walsh. Irish." "Why not? And you?" He considered. "James Walsh, a teacher from Missouri, heading south for his health. With his wife, with his beloved wife." He smiled through the pain. "Shall we, Mrs. Walsh?" They urged their horses into the Rio Grande. The water was warm, barely belly-deep on the mounts. Halfway across, Mari stopped. "Wait!" She pulled the derringer from her pocket, the one meant for their last resort, and threw it into the current. "Won't need that anymore. Optimist, realist, we made it this far." They climbed the Mexican bank as stars began appearing. Behind them, Lieutenant Garrison's campfire flickered like a fallen star. Ahead, the lights of El Paso del Norte promised shelter, food, and anonymity. The boarding house was everything Garrison had promised. Clean, quiet, run by a widow named Teresa who asked no questions about their obvious troubles. She put them in a corner room, brought hot water and bandages, and left them to their privacy. "First thing tomorrow, we find a doctor," Mari said, unwrapping Caleb's shoulder. The wound looked better. Infection retreating thanks to the Army medic's carbolic acid treatment. "Second thing, we find a priest." She paused in her ministrations. "What?" "Want to make it real. Catherine and James Walsh, married proper." He caught her hand. "Unless you prefer living in sin." "Caleb Kane, are you proposing?" "James Walsh is, man's got to do things right." She kissed him soft, careful of his injuries. "Yes, though I warn you, I make a terrible teacher's wife. Can't embroider worth a damn. Good thing I'm a terrible teacher. We'll match." They laughed, the sound foreign after so much fear and violence. In the morning, they'd start the work of becoming new people. Find that doctor, that priest, maybe head deeper into Mexico. Maybe drift back north in a few years when the dust settled. The money would last long enough to choose carefully. But tonight, they were just two people who'd found each other in hell and fought their way to something better. Mari helped Caleb to the bed, then lay beside him, listening to his breathing steady and deepen. "No more whiskey?" she asked into the darkness. "No more whiskey. Got everything I need right here. Pretty words for a killer. Pretty courage for a serving girl. Former serving girl, former killer." She pressed closer. Just Catherine and James now, just us. Through the window, they could see the Rio Grande gleaming in moonlight. Somewhere north of that river, Judge Cray was raging. Henderson was counting his losses, and Perdition went on being what it always was, a town that ate the weak and rewarded the cruel. But here, in this simple room, two people had carved out a different ending. Not the one they'd planned for their lives, but maybe the one they'd needed. "I keep thinking I'll wake up," Mari whispered. "Find myself back in that saloon, pouring whiskey for ghosts. If you do, I'll come get you. Kick down the doors. Shoot whoever needs shooting. You already did that. Do it again, many times as it takes." She believed him. This man who'd wanted more than whiskey had found it, just as she'd found more than survival. Together, they'd discovered that sometimes the only way out is through violence, through fear, through the fire that burns away everything false. A church bell tolled somewhere in the Mexican night, marking time in a new world. Mari counted the strikes. Midnight. A new day entirely. "What now?" she asked. "Now we rest. Tomorrow we start that life we've been promising each other. Ranch. Maybe, or maybe a little school. Teach Mexican children their letters. A gunfighter teaching peace. A survivor teaching hope. Both of us." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. They both carried scars that would ache on cold mornings, memories that would surface in unexpected moments. The money in their saddlebags was stained with blood that wouldn't wash clean, but it was their ending, earned hard and held precious. Two people who'd refused to break, refused to surrender, refused to let the cruel world have the last word. Mari drifted toward sleep, Caleb's heartbeat steady under her palm. Somewhere, a guitar played soft Mexican melodies. Somewhere else, hired guns gave up the chase. And somewhere in between, Catherine and James Walsh began their lives. The morning would bring challenges, papers to forge, stories to keep straight, a whole existence to build from scratch. There would be days when the past knocked loud, when shadows looked like pursuing riders, when every lawman's glance carried threat. But there would also be quiet evenings, honest work, the possibility of children who'd never know hunger or violence. There would be love without desperation, touch without fear, dreams that extended past the next sunrise. The border behind them wasn't just between countries. It was between who they'd been forced to become and who they chose to be. They'd crossed it together, and that made all the difference. In the morning, church bells would ring again, calling the faithful to prayer. Catherine and James Walsh would be among them, giving thanks for deliverance, for each other, for the chance to write a different story. But for now, they held each other in the Mexican darkness. Two souls who'd wanted more than whiskey and found more than they'd dared hope. The desert had tried to break them. The law had tried to chain them. Violence had tried to claim them. Instead, they'd claimed each other, and that was worth every bullet fired, every mile run, every ghost that would forever walk the edge of their new world. The Rio Grande sang its ancient song outside their window. Tomorrow it would still divide nations, but tonight it had united hearts. And in a hard world that offered few happy endings, that was miracle enough, more than enough, more than whiskey. Thank you for listening to this tale from the Wild West. Where are you enjoying this story from? Leave a comment below and let's connect. Don't forget to subscribe to From Wild West channel and share your thoughts about Mari and Caleb's journey. Until next time, partners, retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.